This is the PowerApps Podcast, what you need to know about Microsoft PowerApps and Microsoft Flow. This episode is brought to you by Ingenius. Ingenius Connector Enterprise integrates your telephone system into Microsoft Dynamics 365 and CRM for increased phone agent productivity. Features like screen pop, click to dial, and call logging enable efficient customer service and a comprehensive view of caller interactions. We thank Ingenius for sponsoring the PowerApps Podcast.
Welcome to another episode of the PowerApps Podcast. I'm your host, Shawn Tabor, and my co-host is with me. Well, we don't have the entire crew of those Dynamics guys, unfortunately. Just the adult of the group, Kyle Hill. Kyle, how you doing?
Yeah, good. Glad to be here. It's been a long couple of weeks. Was out at Inspire and now Business Application Summit. Really amazing.
And we are recording live from the Business Application Summit here in sunny Seattle, which is weird to say, sunny Seattle, but it's been sunny the entire time.
Perfect weather. As a South African, I really identify with it. And great city for technology and great city for weather.
And we have a special guest. Very excited about this. We have Charles Lamanna here with us. And, you know, this is, we had him on CRM Audio, I guess you call it Prime, before when we first announced the new April release with the whole new change in the platform. But this time we're going to talk a little more deeper about PowerApps and get some thoughts.
Yeah, so Charles, if you just want to introduce yourself and let the listeners know what your role is and what your role is.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, so I'm Charles Lamanna. I'm General Manager for the application platform here at Microsoft, which is a platform underneath Dynamics 365 and includes PowerApps, the Common Data Service, and Microsoft Flow. I'm really happy to have you guys actually on our home turf for once here in Seattle. It doesn't happen very often, but super excited to talk about PowerApps. It's my favorite passion for what I work on right now.
Fantastic. So I think where we're going to start, and it's an interesting point, we obviously here with Shawn, who's one of our MVPs in the business apps community. And Shawn, I mean, you got access to PowerApps way before most of us. And just tell us a little bit about that, because at the time, you know, my assumption is that it wasn't as widely dispersed amongst the community. There wasn't the hype that there is today.
Right.
But it's absolutely exploded today where, you know, the common theme about the BizApp Summit that I've seen is just everybody wants to get involved with PowerApps.
Yeah, the analogy I've been using is I feel like the kid that you knew growing up that had all the cool toys. You know, I'm the kid that had Nintendo and the Power Glove, but I didn't realize how cool the Power Glove was until now. So now I'm at BizApp Summit, and there's all these sessions, and it's like, wow, there's so much to do. And, you know, there's so much that I find that we as CE folks kind of took for granted, I guess, a little bit. Yep. Seeing how we're extending and broadening these capabilities and functionalities. So what would you say to the standard CE professional, whether a consultant or architect or whatever, what's the best way to get aligned with the new mode with PowerApps?
I'd say that the first thing to know if you work and you're familiar with CE is you already know 90% of PowerApps now. You know 100% of CDS, you know 90% of PowerApps. So you're in a fantastic position. And I'd say the most important thing is to start really adopting that mentality of Dynamics is a platform and a series of apps on top of that platform. And at times, the apps are the right choice to go actually deliver business value. And at other times, it's building your own apps. And it's all the same platform, it's all the same technology. And you already know all of it. So right. I think that's what gets us so excited on the Microsoft side is that we have this incredibly passionate CE community out there, and now they're basically unlocked to go after this new and emerging platform market where there's just so much customer demand, and so it's just so much desire to actually go create apps in these businesses.
And we have seen that explosion on our side, particularly in the community. Are you seeing something similar from the corporate side, you know, the Microsoft corporate side, if I could say that?
Yeah, I'd say all the numbers that we like look good. Really good. And I'd say it's really a transformation for us because if you go back 6 months ago, before we did this big announcement with CDS2 and bringing all the CE platform into PowerApps, we were lacking all those core enterprise capabilities. But those are all gone now. Yeah. I mean, if you can run a business on CE, which we have tons of companies that do, you can run it on PowerApps. Such a huge, strong proof point.
Right.
And I mean, the takeaway there is, if you want to get involved, PowerApps is the place to be.
Absolutely.
If you're trying to evolve your career, develop your skills in, the business world and particularly Microsoft world, PowerApps is where it is. It's cross-applicable as well. It's not only just in CE, you're seeing it in F&O, you're seeing it in Power BI, you're seeing it pop up everywhere. It's the glue that's bringing it all together.
Well, one of the things I love about it is I am not a developer. And many of our co-hosts on this network will confirm that I am not a developer. But the ability to take a Canvas app and to really build something not only functional but very cool looking, and that many can utilize very quickly, is just, to me, it blows my mind because it's so simple. And I think it was a stroke of brilliance going with Excel-based functions for the expressions, because it makes a lot of sense. It's just kind of like second nature, because it's one of those things when doing implementations of CE, everybody perks up when you say, and you could do it in Excel. They may not be listening to anything else you say during that talk, but as soon as you say, oh, and you could do it in Excel, they go, oh, no, what was that? So, yeah, it brings it to the power user.
But I think that resonates with some of the success stories we've had. We had a couple of guys on the stages, particularly from Heathrow as an example. I don't know if you'd like to talk through that story, or should I?
No, I submit I love that story more than anything. So basically, he was a security guard at Heathrow Airport. He left school to kind of go pursue work there at around 16 years old. And he worked there for a series of years, and he was super passionate about it. But in his spare time, he went and actually discovered and learned about PowerApps, reading blogs, watching YouTube videos, maybe listening to some podcasts, and based on that, he actually ramped up all of his skills on PowerApps. And he started building PowerApps to transform and replace paper processes in the security line at Heathrow. And because of those skills, he actually ended up building dozens of different apps at Heathrow, and he now has actually moved into the IT department to go lead this PowerApps transformation at Heathrow Airport. And my favorite thing is he was telling us, ever since he was on stage last week at Inspire with Satya, he has all these different airlines and airports messaging him saying, hey, can you tell us how you've actually used PowerApps? Can we go use it? And it's just so funny to go from such a career transformation, skill transformation, because PowerApps is so accessible. And I mean, you're building real business apps. These are actually changing the way Heathrow runs its business. So that's what gets me up in the morning when it comes in here.
That is so cool.
And it's just one of many examples that are out there. And particularly from our side in the UK, we're seeing a lot of people that are still battling a little bit to engage. So there's a lot of community events out there. We're hosting a hackathon in particular to get people aware and comfortable with PowerApps. Not that it's difficult, but just to get those stages going through. And like I say, the community is just embracing this, and it's absolutely amazing. Shawn, I think you're seeing the same things here in the US.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's the buzz about PowerApps within projects that I'm on, within our organization. I mean, we're looking at now our IP to say, okay, how do we take that IP and make it a Power App? How, and of course, it did take a little while for a lot of us on the CE side to go, wait, so we've been doing model-driven for a while. It literally took my friend Joel Lindstrom. He goes, it's what you've been doing. I'm like, no, it's a different thing. No. So yeah, so looking at IP, looking at opportunities on how you can embed Canvas apps, especially with the new unified interface, it's just a whole new kind of paradigm shift, but a very cool one though.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think the cool bits are you have all the model-driven XRM like CE tech, which now is being brought to PowerApps customers that are around before, but also the cool Canvas app connector tech is also brought to all the CE developers, and that's the 10% that's different, but that can enable all kinds of things that were impossible before, like pixel-perfect creation of UI, connecting to other different data sources, over 230 connectors available out of the box without writing any code, including going on-premise. That's a huge step forward for a lot of CE customers out there today.
So, I mean, one of the big takeaways for me from some of the sessions here today, a little bit more on the technical side, is that there's actually a control framework sitting underneath this platform, the PowerApps control framework. And some of us from the CE days will remember this as the custom control framework. It's kind of V2 of that. For those of you that don't know what I'm talking about, it basically gives you the facility as a partner or an end user to wrap up a whole lot of functionality, a little bit of code. So sorry, Shawn, that's not for you. But it adds an extra dimension into your forms in particular. And coming in the roadmap is to have parity between sort of model and canvas apps. And we might not realize that, but it's an accelerator. It's IP that you can develop and put a whole lot of logic into and really enable your customers. So those sorts of things, and they're going to apply in the solutions, are going to then just take this to the next level. So we're going to have some more of the CE traditional flowing into the Canvas apps and using the connectors like Charles, like you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to open up some more possibilities. We're going to have some more people standing on stage with Satya and singing about how they were, a security handler at Heathrow and now, heading up a whole team of PowerApps developers.
It's crazy, but taking those Canvas apps and being able to embed them within a model-driven app, whether it's standard dynamics or not, it gives you whole new capabilities that you would have had to either create custom UI, write plugins, you're giving the standard customizers a lot more capabilities, and once we get to a point where we can, have the sandbox capabilities and have the progression through the environments with solution management, that's going to it's a total game changer as far as implementations go.
Exactly, and custom connectors, Canvas apps, and flows are all going to be in solutions this year. And in October, at that moment, Canvas apps and the connections that go with them plus flows will be solution aware. So you will be able to go move them between sandbox environments.
Will we ever have kind of like how you have notes control, right? Will we ever have a Canvas app control that you can just pop over?
Yeah, so not this year, but that's exactly where we want to go. Because if you think about what Canvas apps allow you to do is you can get really low-level building blocks, right? Like lines and buttons, and you can build fairly complex concepts. And if you go fast forward like 12 months from now, kind of that vision is you will be able to build custom controls, which are really just a Canvas app-like experience.
Right.
So if you want to go build some pixel-perfect layout of an engine with buttons on it, you don't have to go drop to JavaScript. You could do that in the Canvas app, then reuse that as a control. And we call that internally our component model. But basically the whole idea is we want to make these things composable and then basically embed it wherever you can. Mm-hmm. And that's 100% where we're going to go long term. Step one is, of course, get the PowerApps control framework back and forth between the two. But then after that, we want to go bring Canvas apps or Canvas capabilities to go build those custom controls.
Yeah, so what's exciting about that is you can see the investment that's going into the platform.
Absolutely.
And something that we said just briefly there, but hugely important, the solution management is coming. It's on the roadmap. I'm not going to hold you to date, but it is coming. And also something that we touched on lightly is around flows are going to be part of that solutioning architecture. That's huge.
Mm-hmm.
Running workflows outside of the traditional sort of CRM database and having the connectors and all those sorts of things, you're going to be able to pick up your solution, put it into a new environment. Should just work.
One of the things that excite me about that is if down the road, if flows replace asynchronous workflows, if Canvas apps replace dialogues, then you're getting into a territory where I'm in an Excel workbook and I'm invoking what used to be Dynamics workflows, which you can't do. Yeah. You're giving much more capability to the platform for the user that may or may not enjoy a certain interface, right? It really gives them that customer-driven experience, which is fantastic.
Yeah, and I think you're exactly hitting on one of the big investments that we're making, which is bringing, nobody wants just one app I go and use. In reality, I want experiences integrated across all the apps that I use. So that's why the Outlook add-in is so important, as well as the ability to actually have an experience inside of Excel to run workflows.
Right.
And Flow has it now, the Flow add-in. I can select a cell and run a flow on it. Or I can pull CDS information into Excel.
Right.
If you use Excel, that's where you live. Why make you leave it?
Right.
Just go bring CDS and Flow and PowerApps.
Exactly.
So with all of that happening, I think we'll give a little shout out to one of our co-presenters, Will. He's been working away tirelessly. And what he's doing and has done in a beta sort of release is put together a PowerApps Bank. So what is a PowerApps Bank? Basically, it's a place to share. It's a GitHub for PowerApps. So a whole lot of the community are going to be uploading apps into this bank, basically to share all the knowledge, all the new things that are coming, being able to see how it works. If you're hosting a hackathon, the outputs are there, put them in. So we'll include some links around that. Make sure you check them out. There are going to be a couple of sample apps in there. Super Mario 1, if you haven't seen it, it's really amazing. There's another one called Whack-A-Mole. I'm not going to give too much away. Go and check them out. There's some amazing videos edited by the lovely Mr. Dorrington. So check those out.
We'll put those all in the show notes.
Yeah, absolutely. And
just one other thing I'd say is like something that's making PowerApps another big thing, which I neglected to mention earlier, why it's flourishing now is the community. Just it's unbelievable. I mean, guys like you are actually going out and building these PowerApps, pulling people together. The App in a Day program we're running around the globe. The incredibly active community site, the newly announced PowerApps user group, all of those things are just enabling the whole next, I'd say, like the next wave of people to actually really make this mainstream. Sorry to interrupt.
No, absolutely. So maybe on that note, I mean, we can see the communities flourishing. Charles, from your perspective, what are you most excited about from the PowerApp side of things? What's coming? Or, obviously the community is growing, but for you personally?
So, I mean, the thing that excites me most is, I'd say, like, integrated. And what I mean by that is really making it integrated so that Canvas apps and flows and connectors are solution aware. And all the new capabilities we're doing from a PowerApps point of view are available inside of Excel and SharePoint and Teams and Outlook. Same for Flow. And really making it so that we can take all these powerful capabilities and smear them all over the experience that people use each and every day. And I think that's really a big transformative part for Microsoft all up and for PowerApps in particular, and that you can go very easily build experiences wherever your users are. And people don't even know they use PowerApps or Flow. Like if you use like the new approvals capability in Flow,
right.
you can approve right inside of Outlook. You don't even leave it, right?
Yeah, pretty amazing stuff. Something Salesforce doesn't do very well
at
all.
No,
just saying.
And I do have one last question for you, Ryan Cunningham. One, is he a robot? And two, do you need to turn him down a little bit sometimes during meetings?
So he's like I say he's close to like the Terminator. He just doesn't stop. Runs on coffee, and I think like the way he reminds me kind of is like if I'm not insulting him when I say this, but you have a circus, like the circus barker that kind of gets people to come in and attend.
Yeah.
He is the number one PowerApps like attraction in terms of putting on a show, just fantastic demos. And people ask me this all the time, like, oh my gosh, in 10 minutes I got an hour demo of PowerApps. Yeah. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And for something like PowerApps where it's so easy to build stuff, it just really accentuates the power, right? Just what he can do in 10 minutes on stage is unbelievable. You couldn't even boot Visual Studio and create a new solution in that time, right? So
I mean, after the roadmap session, I was so fired up. I mean, I left there. I'm like, oh my god, I want to go build something right now. So he's great. He's great.
So on that point, I mean, we've spoken about the hackathon that we're going to be hosting in London. And Charles, maybe from your side, there's a lot of people that are on at the BizApp Summit and getting all of this knowledge. What's the next sort of formal event that we've got where maybe people should start planning to get to?
Got it. So we're going to have a big presence at Ignite this September. I think it's like the last week of September. And basically we're going to go down, and that's going to be much more focused towards like end user or office integration.
And that's in Orlando?
Yeah, that's in Orlando, yes. And so that's the next big conference we have, like from a big Microsoft point of view. But of course, we're going to have these user groups. We have Dynamics days. We're going to have PowerApps days. We're going to have App in a Day. So we're going to have a bunch of smaller, more local rhythms, which are great opportunities for people to go out and learn about the product and engage the community, as well as these big bang events. And I'd say Ignite is the next big one for us in September.
Fantastic. Very cool. And very customer focused, that one as well. So get your customers along, bring them with, and see what's happening in the space.
Yeah.
Check out Disney World while you're down there too. So.
I will be there. You betcha. Well, I think we're right at about time. So we really appreciate you taking the time to be on the podcast. This is episode 3. So we set a high bar at 3. Yeah. So next guest, maybe we'll just
have to do something amazing. I bet Charles is an amazing guy.
Well, we'll send Ryan. He'll dictate the demo he does. No, I really appreciate having us on it, and I think it's a great opportunity, and we're super happy on the Microsoft side to go support the community any way that we can, because it wouldn't be a product, it wouldn't be able to grow without a community support.
We're back from the Business Application Summit. Kyle is back in London. I'm back in Florida. I'm not sure who made out better, as the humidity here is at about 3,000%. But unfortunately, Chris and Will couldn't be with us at Business Application Summit because they were busily preparing for the big hackathon. They're back with us now, and I think, what do you guys think? I think it's a great time to talk about what happened at the hackathon. We mentioned it in the last part of the podcast when we were talking with Charles. And how did everything go?
Hey. Right, it was a busy day. Let's not
it's
get
easy
around.
to talk about what didn't happen, I think, because everything happened.
It was nuts.
Well, tell us
yeah.
where did it happen? How many
Cool.
how many attendees did you have? What was the response?
Yeah, so we did it at the Microsoft Reactor in Shoreditch, which is it's a technical focused venue that's normally for startups, but they do a lot of stuff with technical events like hackathons. So we were lucky to get the venue. We had roughly, I think it was about 55 people there throughout the day that came in through the door. We then split those people up into teams with pre-created environments. But what was really interesting was that the people that attended were all from different industries. We had loads of people from different backgrounds. I mean, we had students, we had other Microsoft partners there. It was amazing. And also different caliber of people. So some people were some graphic designers, some people that knew Microsoft Dynamics FinOps, some people that knew customer engagement, some people that were experts in creating Canvas apps. So it was a massive mix. And what made it really cool is that we split them up into teams so that they could really get the variety of working together with one another and generate a scenario based or a set of applications based on a scenario. And really present that right at the end of the day to show their creations and work with PowerApps and learn at the table as well as from the Microsoft team members that attended. And it was epic fun, but man, it was busy. We ran around like crazy people.
I think it's the most consulting I've ever had to do in one day. The enthusiasm was absolutely crazy, and the actual atmosphere in the room, and it was just, and the amount of coffee actually being drunk as well. That was the second impressive thing.
Yeah, I think we broke the coffee machine. I'm not kidding you. I actually think it broke.
And Chris, this event was on a Saturday, so you saw lots of people from the community giving up a whole day on their Saturday just because they wanted to learn and engage with the community?
Well, that's exactly it. And I think, a lot of time when you do events on Saturdays, you get a lot of people dropping out, which is a pity. But in this case, we had a real big attendance. So I'd say, I think it was about 2/3 of the registrants, just over that, made it through, which is fantastic. And it was a sunny Saturday in London, so that was really good. And the other thing I found really fantastic was that, yes, they made it, but they made it with fire in their bellies. They were ready to rock and roll with PowerApps and learn more, as well as teach other people. And that was massively important to us. It wasn't just about getting people in a room and doing some stuff. It was about teaching other people and learning from other people. And it was just amazing to see. The one thing that I found incredible was that they had students in different groups. And actually the group that won had 3 students that were brand new to Dynamics, as well as PowerApps, as well as everything else. They'd opened PowerApps before. They hadn't even seen what the CDS looked like. They were busy building entities and creating model-driven apps and generating some really cool-looking Canvas apps, which we'll be adding to those Dynamics guys. PowerApp Vault at least, or PowerApp Bank. We'll give you a bit more on that. But yeah, it was just really cool to see the investment from Microsoft, from the sponsors Hitachi, as well as from the teams, as well as from the community that came out. So that was cool.
So when you're talking about that they're driving it from a given scenario, how do you construct these scenarios to get them fully engaged? Because I've seen in other events where they may have a scenario, but the engagement is not nearly as high as what I've seen with your events.
Yeah, that was the tricky part, and Will and I spent a lot of time butting heads about scenarios and trying to figure out what was going to work. But ultimately, we got them to fill in a survey to let us know what they thought their knowledge was around different applications within the stack. And then we split them into teams based on that. But then the scenario was based on whether you were a beginner, you could do something, or if you were an expert in whatever, you could do the exact same things. And we found some of the students really, and this is really key, is building out the Canvas apps. So they were saying, well, we're citizen developers essentially. Let's build these things out, and they built some very cool stuff. And then we found the more kind of involved people that had worked with Dynamics before really getting stuck into the model-driven apps and building out the processes and doing a lot of the automation. And then you found the crazy guys actually building out Azure functions and integrating to other solutions to bring in information. So that was the goal, was to get everyone working together. And essentially the whole idea was to say, students or people that are beginners can do this, and people that are experts that could do this as well. But the main thing is that they had to tell a story and they had to work together as a team. And that was the key.
So the folks that did the Azure functions, were they just thinking out of the box, or was there a specific part of the scenario that would typically call for that?
Oh man, I don't actually know why they were building them. I think there was some sort of a integration or some sort of event link that they were firing based on an integration. I think they actually looked up at the DVLA and then were firing a command off based on that. But they really wanted to prove that it wasn't just about using Canvas apps and model-driven apps, but it was really about using the rest of the stack. There was some dude that took out a trial Azure account right on the spot. There was another dude that was writing hundreds of Microsoft flows. I mean, they were going crazy. And it was that. And then, you walk to the next table and you've got like a bunch of people building out this really cool-looking pink UI inside a Canvas app that's talking to CDS. And that's what I loved, is to see, the entire team had focused on who was really great technically, who was great functionally. And it speaks the message of the Microsoft stack, saying you don't have to be an expert in everything to make stuff work really well. And that's why I loved it. I mean, it was just brilliant to watch.
So Chris, I think you and Will put together an agenda, and Will, I'm going to ask you if you can just run through it, because you gave them some guidelines and then pretty much let them run wild, and the solutions that came through were quite amazing. So Will, maybe walk through the agenda, and then we can start talking about what sort of solutions we saw come out.
Sure, and just before I quickly run through that, I like Chris said, we butted heads a bit on this because there's such a vast amount out there, and there's a lot of flexibility. So we was coming up with many different scenarios and approaches, and I think that kind of goes to show what we really got back out of this as well, by the fact that even though any scenario we threw at them, we would have got about 20 different approaches to it. So the scenario that we came up with, and predominantly Chris actually came up with this, was a car road assistance app. So when you break down, and this is built on his experience in South Africa, I believe, when he's broken down there before. And the whole point was to have this back-end sort of back office approach driven by the model app, so you could actually have that process-driven flow. And then they would sort of log the breakdowns of the car. So they'd ring in, the person who's broken down would ring in. They would tell the back office, hey, I've broken down, here I am, log some longitude, latitudes. And that would get pushed out to an on-site mechanic. And then the on-site mechanic would have to find out where their car is, process it through, and actually do an on-site inspection survey. Now, how they approached that, it was up to them. We saw SMS messages, we saw email integration, we saw this DVLA integration. I mean, it was phenomenal. The amount of creativity and enthusiasm, and like I said, and coffee, which really did power everything at the end of the day. It was phenomenal.
Do we see any animations? Your favorite?
Oh, yeah. We saw a pink unicorn. What was it? Real engineers wear pink capes was the name of one of the applications. It was really, really good fun.
Shawn's actually wearing one today.
And looking fabulous. Thank you.
Carl, I don't know why you said today. I thought Shawn was always wearing a pink cape.
Yeah, he doesn't take it off, actually.
Some days it's a cape, some days it's a tutu. I like to mix it up.
But he's always wearing a smile,
That's right. That's right.
Oh, man. It was actually cool. The team that won, they had this pretty interesting animation. So when you saved the record, they had this little red car logo like moving around the screen to say that it was saving. That was pretty cool. But yeah, he saw some interesting stuff, I'm telling you.
And Chris, you also got some feedback from a number of people who couldn't attend for a number of reasons, and pretty much saying, that they realized that they'd missed out and something special had happened, and maybe walk through some of that.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think a lot of people couldn't make it. Well, it's not a lot, I mean, there were a few, but they couldn't make it, obviously, because of family issues, health issues, blah, blah, blah. But when they were good enough, a lot of them were good enough to let me know. And what was also awesome is they basically came back and said, look, we couldn't make it through, but is there any way we can get the content? Could you walk us through how you envisage the scenario working, how to create the model-driven apps, how to generate the Canvas apps, how they all talk back to CDS? And that was really awesome. And I do feel bad that they couldn't make it, but what we are going to do is we will be uploading all of the stuff to the PowerApp Bank on our site, and I think that's going to be great because it's not really the same as the App in a Day stuff. It's a little bit different, but it'll give you the opportunity to get a bit of variety. So once you've tried App in a Day, maybe try this one out.
Cool. Yeah, and I mean, because the other thing, and Will, this question for you, I mean, you've obviously been playing around doing some quite advanced things in PowerApps. Were you sort of surprised at how quickly some of these people picked the things up and some of the more advanced elements?
Yeah, I mean, especially relating back to the to that submission screen where they had this red car go across, because really that to be able to achieve that involves sort of an advanced knowledge of variables and the different controls. And I think as soon as your brain clicks to grab an amalgamation of all the different controls and all the different sort of areas of PowerApps and actually make them into one solution that only achieves one goal, and that was to make this car slide across the page. I think that's when you're really starting to click. And if you do that within 3 hours after, an hour and 40 minutes of presentations, that really shows you this low-code approach that Microsoft really are driving with their Power Platforms.
That's actually a good point. And something else I want to bring up, which is really interesting, some of the feedback that I got from one of the guys that was kind of part of one of the stronger teams. He basically said to me, he's like, look, man, I used to picture I'm a bit of a code snob. He's like, that's kind of his thing. But when you really get stuck in, and if you are a developer and you really get stuck into building out these Canvas apps and model-driven apps, and you are a code snob, as my friend said, I wouldn't necessarily refer to everyone else as that, he actually realized that there's a lot more complexity and there's a lot of stuff that you can really do and get involved in as a developer. And that was really interesting to me because on his team, he had two very strong devs. One of the dudes was the guy that connected to the DVLA. And they came up with some really interesting stuff. But there is a lot you can do with this. It's not just limited to being functional. So yes, from the no-code, low-code side, it's really important to get involved from that point of view. But it hits people of all kind of scales and all skills, which is really cool.
Chris, what was it that Craig from Microsoft said? He said it's like if Excel and PowerApps had a baby. That's how we do the code in there.
Oh, Excel and PowerPoint. Yeah. It was weird for everyone. Actually, on that note, this is a bit of a shameless plug, but I would like to definitely thank the Microsoft guys that came out, and all guys and girls that came out to help us. I mean, Anna, Bruce, Craig, and David, they were super. I mean, they really gave us some great information. They were, getting stuck in. They're walking around and teaching people how to do things. And, I really loved the fact that they got up on stage. They were got people fired up about what Microsoft can do and what PowerApps can do. And I genuinely think that that's what this is all about. That's the type of thing that we want to do to bring the community together and bring people together,
And Shawn, I think we saw similar at the Business Apps Summit. I mean, this platform really is a bit of a home run from Microsoft. People are able to adopt it really quickly and just make it achieve things. Yes, it takes a little bit of time to get to Will's level of story, and even though they're games, it's gamifying certain business scenarios, it's worthwhile. And the adoption just seems to be going through the roof.
Yeah, I agree. And I've never seen as much holistic participation across all members of the Microsoft team on a message like this, right? You've heard the one Microsoft message, you've heard the better together and all that good stuff, but this is really something to behold. The participation, regardless of what team you're talking to, whether it's Power BI, whether it's Power Apps, whether it's Flow, whether it's Dynamics, Office, it doesn't matter. They're all invested. They're all participating. They're all engaged, and it's really cool.
You know what? One thing that really, just on the fact that you mentioned that, something that really was interesting on the day was that, we had people building out Power BI dashboards linking to CDS, being surfaced inside a Canvas app. There were some people using Bing Maps to do that. Some people that just use Power BI, publish to web, pick up that link, surface that in the Canvas app, surface that in the model-driven app. It was nuts. I mean, they were doing it was just going crazy. And like you said, there's something in here for absolutely everyone, which I think is massively important because in the time that I've spent in the channel, I've been on the channel for about 10 years. It's always kind of been like CRM versus AX in the old days, and now it's it's not about that anymore. The story is becoming so much more cohesive and collaborative.
It really is, and I think that's part and parcel of it being a good story to tell, right? It really is bringing that. There's a little bit of everything. There's something for everybody, right? From the citizen developer, which is a lot of the message that's going out right now, but just as much with professional developers, there's just as much to do within that Power Platform for them. And one of the things I saw at the Business Application Summit was in the Flow vision and roadmap, they're building a platform to develop without cliffs.
Oh,
right?
Yes, I remember. Yeah. So you can,
and that was such a message that hit home. It really was.
Cool.
So Chris, maybe let's talk about going forward now. So we've just had this hackathon, and Will, if you could contribute to that'd be great. Two different sides of the community coming together. We've just held a successful hackathon. Sort of what's next?
Oh man, the world is our oyster. We've
conquer the world.
Yeah, man, we've been talking so much about it. One of the chaps from Microsoft, his name is Pratap. He said something interesting over LinkedIn. He said, "Look, you guys have kind of set the standard from a PowerApps hackathon point of view, which is a little scary, but we're definitely going to do more stuff. Like we've had people come up to us and say, are you keen on doing another one? Do you need sponsorship?" Which is awesome, but again, it's a little scary because I think there's going to be a lot that comes out of this. And well, I don't know what you think, but you could easily do something just focused on Canvas apps or just focused on CDS. Like it's crazy.
Oh yeah, no, easily. And I mean, I keep expressing my want to do a sort of gamification hackathon, because I just think that creativity there would be amazing. And you're right. Now we've set a bar. One of the key things we like to do is keep breaking those bars, don't we? So I'm excited about what's going to happen next.
Yeah, and if we could, we'd probably do one every quarter. I think that's what I'd like to do, hey.
Yeah, and also keep reaching out actually, and start trying to do more and more, across the web as well, pushing stuff out there. I think that's also another approach. But definitely one quarter.
So maybe a survey on the website, and see what people are thinking. Also, come and have a look at the PowerApps Bank and some of the content that was delivered and created by the people on the day.
That's a good idea. Actually, we haven't even done the wash up of the day yet. We're still kind of like absorbing, because we've had a bunch of mails and a bunch of LinkedIn messages, which is amazing. And I would really like to thank the community for that, because honestly, it just makes us think like people are keen to get involved and people are keen to get stuck in, and that's essentially what this is about. And a big reason as to why I do this job is because you get to meet so many new people and hang out with so many different types of people. Go ahead.
Chris, it really speaks well to the community itself, because events like this, it was an idea you guys had. So just anybody else in the community could come up with an idea similar and take on something like this, if they want, right?
Oh, sure.
If you build it, they will come, as they say.
Yeah, I think Will's got a great point there. I mean, this isn't just about us doing something. Anyone can go ahead and do this. You've just got to. And you know what I loved? Can I tell you what I really loved? Is how willing Microsoft were to get stuck in and involved in this. I mean, everyone from the event managers at the Microsoft Reactor to people like Bruce and David, Anna and Craig, who actually stuck by us through the whole. I mean, there was a lot of stuff that happened in the background around registering and getting stuff signed off and Microsoft supporting, and that was big. And I guess, you've just got to find the right people to help you out, and they were keen. So, massive thumbs up. And yeah, anyone can do this. It's not just us.
I think you'd be hard-pressed to actually find a more enthusiastic and supportive community, and that includes everybody involved in that community. I really do.
Oh, for sure. And again, the other thing that I thought was great here was the fact that, people brought along some students. And that was awesome, because I think the more we can educate the people that are in sort of high school, the students, all that type of thing, the more we can get them involved here, the better, because that means more people on the channel, more people to do cool stuff in Dynamics, bigger community, more investments. I mean, that's what we need, right? I think that's important.
And I think, Chris, maybe a shout out for some of the sponsors that got involved, not basically because they were sponsoring, but because what they were sponsoring, things like collaboration and such like. So maybe if you can just run through and what prizes there were and what they were given out for.
Yeah, absolutely. So, obviously, Microsoft gave us we got to use the Reactor for free. There was obviously costs for event staff and stuff, but that was really fantastic because they let us use the venue for nothing, which is nuts. So, a massive thank you to them. And Shawn, if we could leave a hashtag or something in the bottom or a link to them, that would be great.
Sure, we can put that in the show notes.
Thank you. And then a big thank you to the Cognitive Group. So they sponsored the collaboration prize, which went out to my buddy Ryan McLean. And essentially that was really focused on, number one, the person actually posting relevant stuff on social for the day. And number two, rallying people around him and his team or her team and getting them involved. And, it's really tough. And Ryan actually had one of the bigger teams. Now, I know there was no real team leader, but when the judges went past, they felt that he was really, really kind of rallying people, getting people talking, punching out ideas, and that was a very, very strong team. So well done to him. And then a big thank you to Hitachi Solutions Europe. That was more focused on, they basically sponsored the majority of the event, which was around the catering, the paying for the event staff, which was really massive, and a big thanks to them. I think the whole idea is around getting people to collaborate, which is really important, and contributing to society. So I think they did a great job there, and yeah, they paid for the prizes, they paid for the awards. So a massive thank you, guys. Big thank you.
Was there a social media award? Something close to your heart?
It went to a student by the name of I think his name was Mr. Mattis.
Mr. Mattis.
Yeah, so that was his name on
Sounds like someone from the A team.
Oh,
so
man.
that's I got to tell you what, he was a great guy, and he's had so many ideas that he really sort of shared with us, and I think he may even be one to watch, eh?
Well, yeah, I've got him all over social, believe me. But yeah, I mean those, and then we also gave an award to Laura Graham Brown. Laura also was a massive collaborator, and then another award to Rory Neary, because his was more unofficial, but he was just fantastic throughout the day. So if we could give everyone awards, we would have, but we couldn't, and there had to be a winner. And believe it or not, that was the red team. So well done, guys. You did a fantastic job.
And Will, I know Rory and you collaborate quite a lot on some quite out there PowerApp scenarios, and some of Rory's posts were getting some views from some people quite high up in Microsoft. Do you want to share those with us?
Yeah, I mean, Rory. First of all, he's an absolute wizard, ninja, extraordinaire bloke when it comes to PowerApps. And he's very active in the community, and actually he's not Dynamics driven. He works predominantly with SharePoint, has not touched Dynamics before. So this once again goes to show you this is part of the whole Microsoft stack. It's not part of the Dynamics product stack. And his posts was getting attention from people like James Phillips, who was also very engaged with how the hackathon's going, and was very supportive as well.
So, I mean, I think that's kind of getting the reach that we want, getting the communities involved, and an all-round successful event. Lots of hard work obviously went into it, and it looks like the community appreciate it.
Oh, man, big time. If positive feedback was a strawberry, then we got a daiquiri. So, yeah.
There's a pearl of wisdom for you.
I just self-high-fived.
So, Shawn, to put you on the spot, when's one in the US going to happen?
Well, it's as if you were watching me and thinking of what I was going to say next. That is something that I'm actually, given this conversation, I'm actually thinking about it. So, we'll have to figure that out. Stay tuned.
Because we're always happy to fly over and spend some time in the States and meet some new people.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Chris has got 3 kids, but he'd do it for the team.
No, he wouldn't invite us, Carl. He wouldn't invite us.
Well, I'd invite you. I just don't know if you'll make the plane.
No, that's probably true.
He wouldn't even get to the... He'd miss the train before he missed the plane.
Exactly. That's the whole point. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, that's
well,
funny.
it sounds like once again the hackathon was an amazing success. What's the next item on the agenda for those Dynamics guys? Do we have anything else planned in the near future?
Well, this is you.
Yeah, I mean, there's always something going on, as you know. The next big thing that we really want to start focusing our attention on is this concept of the PowerApps Bank. And this is a community-led and driven ability to upload your Power Apps along with all the data, etc., and share it with your community. And the greatest thing about this PowerApp Bank is we have no control over it, as in Chris, Carl, and myself. It's completely controlled by the person who's uploaded the item. So they can select their own passwords, they can state how many times it can be downloaded, they can state their own terms and conditions. They can even force you to say, hey, unless you share this, share the fact you're downloading it on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, you can't download it. And that's one thing that we're going to start pushing more, alongside something called the PowerApps Bible, which will teach people how to build formulas they need, and that will be cross-referenced with the bank as well to provide examples. So I think that will be the sort of next thing we work on over the next 4 to 6 weeks.
That is fantastic. And hopefully in the near term, you will be able to rebrand to those Dynamics MVPs instead of those Dynamics guys. Because all the stuff you guys are doing, it's amazing. So I'm excited about it myself. So
thank you, sir. Yeah.
It's good fun. if I can get my act together and actually build a reasonably functional Power App, I will upload that to the bank as well.
Please do.
Will was telling me the other day that he didn't think you could make as good a game as he can. So, you know.
Oh yeah, that's clear. Yeah.
Damn it.
No. I'll make a couple on that one. That's
sounds like a challenge though.
It was.
Yeah.
The bait was there, Carl.
Yeah, the classic Europe US challenge.
Yeah,
that's right. You'll see an amazing gamification Power App of Pong coming from this side.
Actually, no, guys, why don't we just challenge each other right now against each other, gamify a Power App, put our names to it right now. Who can come up with the best one?
It's always the one that knows they're the best that's always making the challenges.
But I think you have to do it a model app, and we'll do Canvas ones.
Let's do that.
Well,
we have to have a model app in it. I'm up for it.
When's our goal? When are we going to review this?
We have 1 hour. Go.
2 years' time.
Yeah. Well, how about this? We come back episode 5, and that's when we have to present, and we'll put a link on the show notes and let people vote.
Okay, perfect. It's on.
There you go. All right, I can't wait to lose. So, I think that does it for episode 3 of the PowerApps podcast. Check out the show notes for all the links that we talked about today. And any last parting notes, guys?
Drink a strawberry daiquiri. They're good for you.
There you go. So on the social media, the hashtag for this podcast will be strawberry daiquiri.
Love it.
On behalf of those Dynamics guys, we appreciate you listening, and we'll catch you next time on the PowerApps podcast.
Bye, everyone.
See you later.
This has been the PowerApps podcast from CRM Audio. Send us your feedback at mail@powerappspodcast.com. Check out other episodes from the CRM Audio Network by going to CRM Audio in your browser or searching for CRM Audio on Spotify, Google Play, iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, any place else that you can find podcasts. This is a production of Dynamics Podcast LLC.